you have to be very careful when you are integrating Europe, when you are creating United States of Europe, not to kill the idea by formalism to institutions. I was partially educated in the United States, in Chicago, and Alexander, my son, the party chairman, was doing 2 years of post-university training in Kellogg, Chicago too. I traveled a lot throughout the United States. The diversity of the United States, even of different states. Don't speak about California, about Texas, but in Georgia, any place has its own identity. Even it is a bit artificial because immigrants are assimilating with American culture on different space, and you 40% of the Americans are speaking Spanish or kind of Spanish. It doesn't handicap the creation of a greater union for main issues and to govern on big problems, which means security, which means economy, which means jobs, which means personal fulfillment. So don't kill the little places in Europe, Flanders or Catalonia, by kind of supranational structure. What you need is a strong European Parliament, elected, which has a democratic justification. People can call upon the attitudes taken by parties, by groups, by personalities. Do you need an elected president as being the exercise of the so-called executive power? I'm not sure. It could be kind of Swiss system where the Swiss government is composed by all the parties as a kind of proportional situation with the head of state in Switzerland moving each year. You have to combine diversity and trust. People can only accept the concept of potential United States of Europe if they can survive in their own, I would say, local approach, in their language, in their way of behaving, in their historical perspectives. So don't kill the idea by creating artificial infrastructures from political aspect. Then you can also ask how to control the big economical powers, how to control the big financial powers, or are going to deal with the rating agencies, which are much stronger than any president of the Council of Europe in those days. It has to be a will, and we have to enlarge Europe. We are too small. With 500 million people in the balance of the power of tomorrow, with the what I call the BRICS, but double I, Brazil, Russia, China, India, and Indonesia, with the emergence of Africa, with 1,200,000,000 people, we will be a little Lilliput disputing among themselves. So we have to look outside Europe and to present a model of civilization without paternalism, without pretension, because it could have setbacks for people saying to get out of poverty. I prefer the Chinese path and not the European path to get out of poverty in Africa or in Latin America. I prefer the authoritarian approach, and not this kind of free thinking, free behaving, European relaxing model of civilization. We are not alone on the world market, so we have to go step by step, but we know which direction we are going. I always say when I'm leaving my house, the first decision I have to take, do I go on the right or do I go on the left of the road? If I don't take that decision immediately, I will go on the other side of the building in front of my home. So you have to know what is the final destination, and then to go to that, not to deviate from your final destination, but the way, the speed, the space upon which you do this is a question of opportunity. Well, it depends. You have to combine both. How can you ensure a real exercise of liberty, which means to have a free mobility, to have the elementary I would say care in health, in old ages, to be a minimum of security. You need a minimum of state for that. Now, what we say, one of most important approaches is we know that you cannot construct a social paradise on an economical graveyard. We know that. But I'm saying also you cannot construct an economical paradise on a social graveyard. So you have to find a combination, and liberalism by definition is crossing boundaries, is crossing frontiers. It is universal approach to things. It is not too dogmatic. It is not a doctrine as the Marxism. You have to follow line by line as a kind of catechismus of the people. Now it really tries to say we need the state as an element of liberation. We need to protect ourselves. And I take one of the big cases, which is fascinating me, is privacy. When you see all the intrusion which is occurring to a private life, when you know that we are on 250 information banks, each of us, when you walk through London a day, you will be pictured 500 times. When you have your portable in your pocket, people knows exactly where you are. All those elements is confronting for liberals. So we have to put enough strong power to limit this kind of intrusion, which means you cannot be a liberal, you cannot be addicted to freedom, and I'm addicted to freedom and to privacy, if there is no strong, I would say, barriers to protect the other ones of your own intrusion. So I don't see contradiction between a strong, limited European government in a certain sense, based on democratic fundamentals, elected, not a big European bureaucracy, which would not be based on democratic principles, and the exercise of the utmost freedom in the real competitive sense of the wordings. I believe socialists are still obsessed by the role of the state. They believe the citizens are to be convinced that their happiness is the happiness which the state will fulfill for them. And they have to follow a certain model and a kind of scientific approach that will be happiness for them. And the state intervention and power is too great vis-à-vis the non-organized individual citizen. The right, or the extreme right, is living on a great number of arguments. It can be populism, it can be self-protection, it can be the fear of foreign people, it can be opposed on racial bases, it can react to a certain number of incentives which are not important in the perspective of the future. The liberals are somewhere in between. We need state to protect ourselves. We need state to give the minimum of tools through which we can exercise our freedom, which means good education, which means security, which means good mobility, which means good health, which means research, which is necessary to make progress. But I think we are somewhere the way in between, much more audacious, much more, I would say, demanding, because we believe that the addition of the individual happinesses will result in collective happiness. But for that, we have to pay the price. And if liberals doesn't pay the price, if liberals do not pay the price, there will not be a liberal society.